This is WVLP, Low Power FM 103.1 in Valparaiso, Indiana. I'm Ken the Metal Professor, and now that we are all pumped up again thanks to Nightwish, it's time to switch gears and talk about...
Your insubordination will not be tolerated.
And this is now the Northwest Indiana Wrestling Action Program, or NWIWrap for short. NWIWrap. Let me tell you a little bit about this multimedia empire that I've got going here. Well, first of all, NWIWrap broadcasts the second and fourth Sundays of the month at 9:30 p.m. or, as indicated tonight, 9:30 p.m.-ish. Once Mostly Metal winds down for the first 90 minutes on the first and third Sundays of the month, Mostly Metal goes all the way till 10 o'clock, because I don't know if I could talk about wrestling for half an hour once a week. But once every other week is good. So you can hear this wrestling talk here on WVLP. Once an episode like this one is finished, I archive it on YouTube. So if you go to YouTube and search NWIWrap, you can find the last bunch of shows archived. I believe this is episode number 9. Last time, 2 weeks ago, Mr. Joey Boom Boom from ARW Pro Wrestling was here. We've also talked to Jeremy Seabolt of Smash Mouth Wrestling. We've talked to Dakota Prodigy, performer in many regional wrestling companies. And coming up next week, the studio is going to be full. Next week is the 5th Sunday of the month. We're going to have a bonus edition of NWIWrap. We're going to have Eric King of Pro Wrestling King, kind of the head honcho and showrunner there, along with Ames and Adam Bueller, and they're regional wrestlers. They will be competing in a couple of weeks for the PWK heavyweight title, and they will be in the studio together to talk about how they've been doing in the business and what's going to be going on during their match. So that'll be interesting. Now, apart from listening to NWIWrap on the radio here and hearing it on YouTube, there's a couple of things you can do to keep informed. One of the reasons I do this is because there's lots of wrestling companies in this area. Porter County, Lake County, LaPorte County, and farther to the east, they share a big talent pool. So when you start recognizing some of the performers, you'll see them in multiple different places. So there's a lot of stuff going on just about every weekend. Once we get into the new year here and start, especially once we get to March and on, there's going to be shows all over the place within like an hour and a half drive of here. So one of the things I'm doing is trying to help keep up with this, and to just have like a little list of stuff that's coming up. So if you go to metalprofessor.com, which you should, check out playlists of Mostly Metal and things like that, look for the tab NWIWrap, and you'll see a list of upcoming shows. And if I know about what matches are going to be on the shows, I'll try to put those in too, so you can see this little list. You can also subscribe to the NWIWrap@gmail.com Google Calendar. It's open to the public, and I try to put shows on there as well. So you can build into your own Google Calendar the NWIWrap calendar of events going on. And so basically it'll clutter up your weekends, because almost every Saturday there's one and possibly 2 shows going on, east, west, or local to Valparaiso. Some of them are in a different time zone, which makes the calendar thing a little tricky. So I just convert everything to Central Time when I load it into the calendar. And hopefully that's not confusing. If you have any good information or you have any complaints, you can drop an email to NWIWrap@gmail.com as well. So, like I said, a growing multimedia empire based on the Northwest and Northern Indiana wrestling action scene. So through late December and early January, not a whole lot was going on. Most of the companies had some downtime, but things are firing back up. And so the last 2 weekends in a row, last night, in fact, and last Saturday, I got to go visit 2 shows, and I'll tell you what happened during those shows. 2 weeks ago, well, 2 Saturdays ago, 1 weekend ago, ARW Pro had a show in Lake Station. Two weeks ago here on WVLP on the Northwest Indiana Wrestling Action Program, Joey Boom Boom, the head honcho at ARW Pro, was here to visit and tell us about what's going on there this year. I should say he used to be the head honcho because at the start of this show, he comes out in a nice suit. He is being the guest ring announcer for the night because the normal ring announcer was under the weather. And he starts off by saying that there had been some weird financial stuff going on, letters from the IRS coming here and there, and at some point, due to these IRS problems, ARW Pro had gone on the auction block, apparently, and somebody snuck in and purchased it in sort of a sneaky move, and everybody wondered who this was. And it turns out it's King Bishop, who is one of the managers in ARW Pro, and everybody was a little bit suspicious about that because he's been a shady character at times, and he's managed some questionable folks. But he comes out and he says he's trying out a new attitude. He's going to do things for the fans. And in fact, he lets Joey Boom Boom stick around as the ARW Pro commissioner with powers to make matches and things like that. So even though King Bishop is now on the top in that organization, a lot of the things are going to stay the same. So the wrestling then kicked off. Dashing Dick Davis defeated Johnny Swashbuckle in the first round. Dashing Dick Davis thinks a lot of himself, and he lets the audience know it. Johnny Swashbuckle looks like you think he would with a name like that. He's got an eye patch, he's got the boots, he's got a sword when he comes out, and he uses Pirates of the Caribbean or something like that for his theme music. But anyway, Dashing Dick Davis won that first match. Now, one of the tag teams that King Bishop has managed in the past was Los Supervillanos, Superbad Santana Starks, and Dante Devious. DVS, the letter's DVS, but you say it, it's Devious. I finally caught on to that when Joey Boom Boom was here. But they were getting mad at each other, and so during the last show back in November, right before Thanksgiving, Santana Starks and Dante DVS had a falling out, and they left the arena with red faces and not talking to each other. And so they're supposed to have a match tonight, but King Bishop says that Dante is not there. He makes some subtle implications that his absence has something to do with iron bars and 3 square meals a day. So who knows? So Santana Starks has no opponent, but some music hits, and out comes Charlie Jr., the manager, the director of The Family, a bunch of very large and very intimidating, nasty people. He brings out Rancid Joey Rack. Now, these guys are sort of a Sons of Anarchy type of deal going on. You have to earn your way into the family, and Joey has not quite earned his way in. He's got the T-shirt, but he's still open to question. So Charlie's out there to set him up against Santana Starks and have Joey Rack show what he's made of, which wasn't a whole lot because Santana Starks handled Joey with some pretty intense moves. Joey got in some offense, but not a whole lot. And so Santana Starks wins over Rancid Joey Rack. Charlie Jr. was not happy with Joey's performance, and so he smacks him a little bit and shoves him and is yelling at him all the way through the back. So there's a little bit of dissension going on there. In the next match, Kevin Graves beat Angel Armani. It was a good match. Not a whole lot to say about it. Good stuff. Got the crowd involved. The family came back out. This time it was the larger family members, Ivan Manson, who is huge, and Mike Anthony, who is the older and experienced family member. They were taking on BOW, Brutus Owen Wesker, and Punisher 747. The family gets up to a lot of nonsense and antics when they are wrestling, and this was no different. So there was an extra family member, Old School Manson OSM. He was out at ringside with Charlie Jr. He was not supposed to be involved in the match, but, you know, they have ways of getting their hits in when the ref isn't looking. So there was a lot of this stuff going on with not fan interference, but outside interference, ref distractions, all sorts of shenanigans going on. Eventually, Mike Anthony hit the ref and drew a DQ. And so the family lost that match by DQ. There is a lot of large people in that ring. So I'd like to have gotten a scale out and find out how much total poundage there was, but that would have been a big number. Then some title matches came up. Mad Max Holiday took on Colin Cambridge. Colin Cambridge has the Indiana State Championship currently. He was not in a mood to give it up, and so when it looked like he might have to, he got himself DQ'd with a low blow. And so, as you know in wrestling, if you are a champion and you lose by DQ or countout, you lose the match, but you do not lose the title. Your opponent has to win by pinfall or submission in order to gain the title. And so Colin Cambridge lost the match, but got to keep the title. Now, to show his new appreciation for the fans and his new attitude, King Bishop did come out and he said he wasn't happy with what Cambridge was doing. And so even though he didn't get the title, Mad Max Holiday was awarded by King Bishop the ARW Golden Ticket. It looks like the big Willy Wonka Golden Ticket. And what it means is that Holiday can now challenge for any title at any time. And so I don't think he's done with Colin Cambridge. Second to last match, the Picture Show, the current tag team titles, retained their tag team titles over the Storm brothers, Kevin Storm and Theo Storm. Now, Theo used to be in favor with the fans, but some things hadn't been going well for him in ARW Pro, and so he's also gotten himself a new attitude, which isn't a good one, and he's reunited with his brother Kevin, and so the two of them are putting their heads together to see what they can do, but they didn't get very far against the Picture Show, who retained the tag team titles. And then finally, in the last match of the night, and wow, this was a good one, Mr. 3% John Hudson retained the ARW championship over Marcelo Spade. These two guys put on a show. It was that match was worth the price of admission, which is pretty cheap. You go to wrestling shows around here, it usually costs like $10 to get in, so I encourage you to always do that. But yeah, this was a great match. High impact moves, flippy stuff, in and out of the ring, heavy hitting. Hudson did a Styles Clash to Marcelo Spade, which is not something that's easy to pull off. I guess it can be a little bit dangerous unless you know what you're doing. But yeah, so at the end of the match, John Hudson even got on the mic and praised Spade a little bit for his performance and told him he was a future superstar. So anyway, that was ARW Pro. Next month, February 11th, they will be doing a show at Morton High School. They're doing a fundraiser for the Morton High School band program. So if you have some time and interest, go check that out and contribute to a good cause. Now, last night, I went to see Fire Pro Wrestling. This was at Impact Christian Church in Merrillville. This was Fire Pro Wrestling 130. You'll hear some names in this that I already mentioned before and that I'll mention again in the rest of the half hour here. But the opening match was Nico Antonelli against Kevin Graves. Yeah, the same Kevin Graves you just heard about for the ARW Pro lineup there. It was an opening match. Not a whole lot went down. It was just there to get the crowd worked up, but Kevin Graves is good at that. The second match was the tag team title match. The current tag team titles are Team Black, Drex Odell and Mustafa. They took on the Roach and Logan Williams, and the Roach and Logan Williams weren't much competition. Mustafa is large, and Drex Odell isn't a teeny person himself, so they were outclassing their opponents there. The Product, Christopher Kent, who thinks a lot of himself, he came out and defeated Roland Young in the third match. In the fourth match, Stonehand Slater Wallace got a win over Greg Glover. Greg Glover currently holds the Fire Pro Wrestling Intercontinental Champ. Like at the ARW Pro Show, this is one of those instances where the current champ saw that things might not be going very well and did not feel like losing his title, and so Glover allowed himself to be counted out with the 10 count, meaning he lost the match but did not have to give up his title, which was good enough for a day's work for him. Kenny Courageous was sitting in as the acting commissioner of Fire Pro for the evening, and he came out and said he'd had enough of Glover's nonsense, and he set up a rematch for these two at their next month's show, which will happen on February 18th. That show will be called Revelations. In the next match, now pay attention here because this was Adam Bueller taking on Flash Harris. And now Adam Bueller is going to be one of the guests here next week on NWIWrap. I'm looking forward to hearing what he has to say. This was a good match. Lots of thumping and hitting and flying and jumping around and coming in and out of the ropes. But eventually Adam Bueller wins, but because Christopher Kent, the product, Christopher Kent, came out and distracted Harris. And I guess Kent and Harris must have a little beef because after Bueller won and went away, Christopher Kent came in and started wailing on Harris with a kendo stick, which looks painful and makes a lot of noise. And I think Flash Harris's mom was in the audience, and it was fun to watch her react to some of the hits he took in the match with Adam Bueller. And then when Christopher Kent was wailing on him with a kendo stick, she stood up and she grabbed a chair from the row in front of her. It looked like she was ready to jump in the ring and take out Christopher Kent herself. It was very entertaining. I'm glad when moms stand up for their kids. But anyway, that led to a Kenny Courageous coming in and announcing a no DQ match between Christopher Kent and Flash Harris next month at Revelations. Dashing Dick Davis, the same one from last week at ARW Pro, he lost to Austin Fury. Austin Fury was the good guy, and Dick Davis was the heel. And normally it's the heels that cheat a little bit, but this time the ref got bumped. He went down, so he wasn't looking while he was trying to recover. Kevin Graves, good guy Kevin Graves, comes running in and kicks Davis in the face and allows Austin Fury to get the win. So then Davis and Graves had words for each other. They've had a long history as tag team partners and friends, but, in the ring, none of that matters, and now they have a no-holds-barred match at Revelations next month. And because of their individual victories in this sort of tournament going on, Adam Bueller and Austin Fury will battle at Revelations next month for the Impact Championship. Now, this next weekend will be one of those, or not next weekend, but February 18th will be one of those times when my two hobbies of metal and wrestling are going to not get along because I have tickets to go see a metal show in Chicago. That night I'm going to see Pain of Salvation, ha ha ha, so I won't be able to go see Revelations. But maybe I'll find out what went on and bring back the good word. The main event of this show was Johnny Motley and Jeremy Hadley. They fought against Flawless Dave Allen and Mike Horning. This was a good match, too. Lots of action all over the place. The ref was working hard trying to keep the action under control. He might have been the best performer of the night during this match. But eventually, Mike Allen got Jeremy Hadley to tap out to an ankle lock. No titles on the line here, just a couple of fan favorites going up against some really bad dudes that the audience didn't like. So it was a crowd pleaser, even though the good guys lost. So that's what happened the last couple of weekends. Now here's what's coming up soon. Saturday, February 4th is going to be a busy day. I don't know if there's any shows coming up this coming immediate weekend, the 5th weekend of the month. But the weekend after that is where things really kick off. So Saturday, February 4th out in South Bend, you're going to see 3 different regional wrestling companies come together and put on a show called When Worlds Collide 3 at the Century Center over there in South Bend. It takes about an hour to get there from here, so it's not too bad as long as the weather cooperates. So Strong Style Wrestling, RCW, Revolution Championship Wrestling, and Pro Wrestling King. Again, Pro Wrestling King, Eric King, coming in next weekend to talk about this and other shows. Those 3 companies are putting their heads together to put on this event. All 3 titles, main heavyweight titles for all 3 organizations, will be on the line at this show. And there's some famous names on this show for those of you that have been wrestling fans for a long time. So, for example, this show will have a special general manager, Teddy Long, from WCW and WWE days. The RCW World title is on the line when the champ Jack Thriller takes on Swoggle. Now, Swoggle is otherwise known as Hornswoggle from WWE. ECW fans might remember the Full-Blooded Italians. They'll be taking on the Spirit of Detroit for the Pro Wrestling King tag team titles. You'll have Congo Kong versus Shane Mercer for the Strong Style Wrestling World title. And you'll have Ames versus Adam Bueller for the Pro Wrestling King title. And once again, next weekend, Ames and Adam Bueller will be here in the studio to talk about this match and other things that they have going on. Some other matches on the card: Matt Cross versus Davey Richards. Matt Cross is otherwise known as Son of Havoc on Lucha Underground, so I'm really looking forward to that. Rikishi and Grandmaster Sexay Brian Christopher. There's some names from the past. Will take on the Soul Shooters. That's Drew Skills and Remy Wilkins. Joey Ryan of Lucha Underground fame and many other places will take on Anthony Toatelli. We've got Masquerita Sagrada showing up. You've got Angelina Love. And, whoops, I missed a match. The Police Department versus the Midwest Monsters. This is not I don't know that this is a title match. Maybe it's a title match for one of the organization's tag team titles. RCW tag team titles, I bet. I didn't have that written down, but I'm pretty sure that's what it's going to be. But Police Department versus Midwest Monsters in a tag match. So this show is going to be, as my kids would have said last year, off the hook, perhaps, or maybe now they say it's lit. I don't know. I don't know what they say, but it's going to be a good show. Now, it's sort of a double-decker day because before this big show gets underway in the evening, in the afternoon, Strong Style Wrestling is holding a show called New Blood, still at the Century Center, where they're bringing in a whole lot of people that don't usually wrestle in this area to put on a show and see who might be asked to turn around and come back again. So if you're a wrestling fan, this is going to be an entire day. So I believe New Blood starts at 1 o'clock, and that's Eastern time. So 12 o'clock for us, and that'll run for a couple of hours, I bet. And then you'll have the When Worlds Collide 3 starting in the evening. So make your plans accordingly. Drive out to South Bend for the afternoon, watch New Blood, go have some yummy dinner, and then come back for When Worlds Collide 3 in the evening. I've mentioned on Saturday, February 11th, ARW Pro will have a fundraiser for the high school band at the Oliver P. Morton High School at 7:30, and that's over in Hammond. Fire Pro Wrestling having Revelations on February 18th. I ran some of that stuff down when I was recapping shows from last week. RCW is starting up their normal calendar in March. And so, as you can see, things are going underway. Now, Valparaiso proper, nothing's happening here in town that I know of until April. Then Saturday, April 8th, Smash Mouth Pro Wrestling, which runs out of Inman's for most of their shows, Inman's Recreation Center on Evans Avenue, is holding Smash Fest. Now, this isn't just your ordinary wrestling card. This is going to be like a fan festival / wrestling extravaganza. So a lot of local performers will be there, but also a lot of people from elsewhere and historically significant people as well. For example, those of you who are fans of TNA will know DK, Abyss, Crazy Steve, and Rosemary. They are going to be here. DJ Z and Davey Richards from TNA will be here. Marshe Rocket and his tag team partner Acid Jazz will be here. Other names: PN News, Bobby Eaton, Abdullah the Butcher, Ryan Howe, Bobby Fulton, Aldo Rose. These are WWE names of relatively current or not quite so current fame. They will be here. Some of them will be in matches. Some of them will be on hand for signings and things like that. Tugboat has been named as an attendee, but he's having some health problems, and so that's probably open to question whether he's actually going to make it or not. But yeah, that's going to be a stacked show there. Trevor Murdoch, Colin Delaney, D-Ray 3000, those are some other names going on. Now, I have a personal interest in this, not only because it's in Valpo, but as the show was getting advertised as a way to make some money and help support bringing in all these people, Smash Mouth was offering honorary managerships for certain people on the card. And so I, personally, will be the honorary manager of Marshe Rocket and Acid Jazz. And they're going to be taking on Legion for the Smash Mouth Pro Wrestling Tag Team titles. Currently, Marshe Rocket and Acid Jazz hold those titles, and Legion is going to try to get them back. And let me tell you something about Legion. They're pretty scary. Yeah, Legion's pretty scary. So I have confidence that Marshe and Acid Jazz are going to pull it off, but I'm not quite sure. I'll have some words about Legion as we get through the next couple of months, closing in on Smash Mouth Pro Wrestling's Smash Fest. But I see that I've killed the last of the half hour. See, I knew I could do it. I knew I could talk It's easy to kill the time when there's a guest in the studio, like there will be next week. Remember Eric King, Ames, and Adam Bueller coming to talk about Pro Wrestling King and some of their events coming up. When it's a monologue, it's a little harder to keep it going, but what the heck, I did it. You put me in front of a math class and I can talk for hours. Give me some wrestling to talk about, and I guess I can at least go for 20 minutes. What do you know? I hope some folks stuck around. I'm Ken the Metal Professor. It's just about time to return to your regular programming here on WVLP, and you will get to listen to the replay of Punk Rock Radio. So thanks for tuning in. Come on back next week for more Mostly Metal and a bonus edition of the Northwest Indiana Wrestling Action Program.